What up, you guys? I want to read you some of my favorite Jordan Peterson quotes that I've heard from him. One of them is, "If you're seeking truth, then that means that if you're seeking truth, then that means what you don't know matters way more to you than what you do know." And then the other one was, "Assume the person that you're speaking to knows something that you don't know." You know, and What's up, Michelle? But the title, if you see the screenshot of this video, it says, "Is it really that hard to listen and speak respectfully with people we disagree with politically?" And so yeah, I just when I read that, like I was looking for quotes and stuff that I could put as a picture for this podcast. But then I instantly thought of Jordan Peterson when he said, assume the person you're speaking to knows something that you don't, because if you assume that, and if you're intrigued by knowledge, and if you're always seeking knowledge outside of yourself or what other people might know that you don't, then it'll be nothing for you to speak respectfully to a person, because you think that you might acquire some knowledge from them. But usually when we get into arguments, it's because we think the person we're talking to is a complete idiot and they don't deserve our respect because they have a certain vantage point that's like disgusting to us. And then when we view them through the lens of being disgusted by them, that's why if they did have knowledge that could have benefited us to know, we'll never acquire that knowledge because we're too busy being offended by their viewpoint instead of being curious, so I noticed, like, when people, like, when you're more critical on people than you are curious, when you're critical as to why the way that they are, instead of being curious, as because when you're curious, like, you're intrigued, you want to know their story, you want to know what events led up to them thinking the way that they do. Stuff like that actually interests you. When you don't give a damn about the person, and when you live in shoulds and shouldn'ts, then you'll just view them as, well, you shouldn't have this viewpoint, or you shouldn't believe this, or that's stupid, or why would you? You know what I mean? And this is very like, yo, you ever tell somebody about your past, right? And then they just start condemning you while you're it's like, yo, can I finish my story? But like they start talking to you as if you're the same person that did whatever you're ashamed of. Like, if you have any shame for things you did in your past, then that's proof that you have a new heart, like you have a new vantage point. You know what I mean? Because if you had no shame, that means that you don't have no regrets. That means that whatever you did in your past that you could be feeling shame for, you just wouldn't. You just fall right into it again, and you wouldn't have no remorse, no regret, no nothing. You know what I mean? And that'd be proof that you're the same person. But if there's any ounce of shame in you, you know what I mean? I don't think that shame and guilt is ever a tool of God, but you know what I mean? But the good thing is, like, if you feel bad about your past, because, like, for me personally, give me a second. All right, so for me personally, like, there's girls that I know I treated like complete shit. And if I didn't feel bad right now for that, or if I had a time machine, I could go back and I could fix some of the things that I said to people that I have no idea if they still remember some of the awful things I might have said, you know what I mean? But if I could jump in my time machine now and fix it, like, I would. So yeah, man. Anyways, people change and stuff, but the thing is, sometimes when people change, right, the person that you've known them to be for 20 years, like, on a 21st year, if they're a different person, you're still recalling the last 20 years of them being offensive towards you, or the last 20 years of them undermining you as a human for having a different vantage point than they do, or the last 20 years. And maybe they're a lot more passive, or maybe they're a lot more, like, willing to listen and not cut you off when you speak. You know what I mean? Because I pay attention to the way people communicate and stuff to each other. And I know one thing in general that people can't stand is when you're in the middle of trying to get your point across, and when you feel pressure, you feel like you have between 5 to 8 seconds to fully express yourself. And if you don't, you're going to get cut off. So now you have anxiety because you're in a rush to get to the point, because if you don't, you know that they're going to cut you off. And it just makes it an anxiety driven conversation because you're in a rush. You're so in a rush to get your point out. And the way you communicate, maybe it's not fluent, maybe you're a slower communicator. You know what I mean? And then just left and right, they keep trying to beat you to the point, or they're trying to keep having a counter argument, and so I remember I was watching a Jordan Peterson video, and he was like, yo, the husband that you're married to, the wife that you're married to, right? They might speak a different language fluently and not the language that you speak fluently, and if all you do is weaken their argument, he says you're making yourself weak, because if they had a strong argument, they could have moved the relationship forward. You'll never get to hear what that is because you're too busy defending your viewpoints and trying to make the person agree with you. Like, yo, here's the thing, man. Like, when you have a strong viewpoint, you could whisper it. Here's the problem, though. People have weak ass viewpoints and they try to yell it. And it's like, why are you yelling? It's because your point must not be that valid. So you feel like yelling validates your point, you know? Like there's another quote that I love. It says, um, lower your voice and strengthen your argument, you know? And because like when you say something impactful, man, you could really, for real, like you could whisper it, you know? You don't have to be yelling and going all crazy and getting mad because people don't see it your way, you know what I mean? So, give me a second. What's up, Judith? What's up, Ariana? So yeah, man, like the key to having like good conversations with people, and first of all, like we got to get rid of offense. Offense is a barrier to growth. You know what I mean? I mean, there's even in my life, there's probably been countless amount of people that gave me advice that was worth me listening to, and I didn't care, you know, or I didn't like the tonality that they used when they delivered the message, and I listened to tonality more than I listened to what's being said. And no wonder why I completely missed the point of what's being said, because I was focusing on how it's being said. And that's why, like, you know, these cliche things in quotes that we think is like a social norm, that it's actually a good quote. And some of these quotes are terrible. Like, oh, it's not about what's being said, it's about how it's being said. If you believe that, you're always going to misinterpret everything people are saying, because you're not listening to what's being said. You're listening to tonality and I don't like the way it was said. And can you say the same thing differently? And it's like, what does it matter if they say the same thing differently if you got the point? I mean, well, you probably didn't even get the point because you was listening to how, you know, how it rubs you the wrong way. You know what I mean? How it got under your skin. You know what I mean? So that's why I always talk about almost all these podcasts, like, you know, being offended. That shit is not cool, man. Like being so easily offended and just sometimes over nothing, you know, just because people don't want to see things our way or they don't want to agree with us. You know, as if people wake up in the morning to agree with everything you believe in, as if people wake up in the morning with you in mind or with, you know what I mean? It's like when you conversate, why do you have an agenda? Why is your agenda to convert people so with such hostility? You know what I'm saying? Like I want to talk about veganism briefly. Like it's probably a great dieting plan, but there's some angry ass vegans out there, and it's like, bruh, like if you believe that veganism is the way to go, why do you got to treat people like shit just because they prefer to eat meat or they like bacon or they like, you know, first of all, I really believe, and this is my personal belief system. I think the stuff that you eat, that's the stupidest thing to get religious over about a dietary plan. So the fuck what? Someone prefers bacon, you know? But I understand from the vegan like standpoint, like they're mad because like they're trying to preserve the life of the animals. Man, but the thing is, man, some people get so extreme, they start loving animals more than people. And they wonder why all their relationships are failing, why people are deleting them left and right, or they're getting deleted left and right because they have so much expectation on, you know what I'm saying? Like I know this one guy that he always sends like torture videos of animals getting tortured and stuff, and you know, and it's like, yo, I don't know what, you know, I don't know what his agenda is. I don't know if he thinks that these videos are going to make people convert to veganism, or they're going to be so disgusted that they just choose to stay away from, because yo, veganism is extreme for some people. Like, you know, vegetarian, like being a vegetarian, that's one thing, you know, like at least you can still eat cheese and mayonnaise, but veganism is straight like no meat, no cheese, no dairy, no ice cream, no, you know what I'm saying? And there's so many people that I'm not going to say that they need that they need ice cream or that they need cheese, but you know, here's the thing though, like as soon as you communicate to yourself that you need something, it becomes a need in your mind. That becomes your subjective reality, even though we all share the same reality, but you're in a own reality of your own, like within your own head. And there's something called that I learned from Tony Robbins. He calls it reality bridging, right? And he says that I don't have to destroy your city and force you to live in mine, and you don't have to destroy my city and force me to live in yours. Your city being your perspective, you know. And he calls it reality bridging, which means we could create a bridge that interconnects my world to yours through communication, and I don't have to live there either, and you don't have to live in my world. But the bridge, with the bridge, I could freely travel to your world and then travel back when I'm ready to commute back to my own place, you know? And we don't have to bomb each other's cities just because, well, I hate your vantage point, you know what I mean? So I was like, wow, like that was so deep. Like I forgot what video that was. I'm gonna try to post it later. I'm gonna try to repost it. It's somewhere on my wall. If you look through my videos, I have a lot of edifying, encouraging stuff that, you know, a lot of video content. A lot of it is not mine. Some of it is, but a lot of it is from people that inspire me to just to want to be a better person, you know, or the best that I can be, the best of my, whatever my potential is, you know. So when I heard him talk about reality bridging, I was just so intrigued, and I instantly thought about people that are just incapable of doing that, Well, not that they're incapable, they just don't know how, and they don't know the benefits of letting somebody speak. Because like I said, like if you have a wife that fluently speaks Spanish and her English is terrible, like she might have an accusation against you that's actually legitimate. That if you stop doing certain, like she might feel like if you continue doing certain things, she's gonna divorce your ass. But the thing is, every time she tries to speak about her issues with you, you cut her off while she's speaking. So for 10 years, she holds it in, thinking that maybe it'll change. And then on the 11th year, you get divorced. And to you, it seems like the divorce came out of nowhere. But you don't know that she's been plotting that divorce for 10 years. For 10 years, every year, she was like, man, you know what? This is going to be the year that I just say it's over because I can't tolerate this. But at the end of the year, she changes her mind and she says, you know what? I'll be patient for one more year. And she does that for 10 years in a row. And you have no idea that she's plotting against you in her mind, like in the walls of her mind, because you refuse to allow her to communicate to you, because the way she communicates or the attitude that she has when she's communicating offends you so much that you'll never be able to grasp what's being said because you're so focused on how it's being said. And that's why I like telling you guys, yo, it's not about how it's being said. It's about what's being said. And is it impactful? Is it something that could change your life? Is it something that could make you better? Because if you just, like, yo, some people are so offended. They have like 2,000 red hot buttons, 2,000 triggers, and you need people to communicate to you so delicately and so nice and so sweet. And it's like, bro, not everybody's delicate, nice, and sweet. Like, so what are you not gonna receive an empowering message or something that could potentially change your life forever just because you don't like the tone in which it was said, So Jordan Peterson, he says, when you make somebody's argument against you weak, you make yourself weak. He said, strengthen somebody's argument against you, because when you conquer them in that state, then you really won for real. Like, then you really won the argument, because they might have communicated the argument and their argument, and then you stopped them to say, hey, I just want to make sure me and you are on the same page. Here's what I understand from what you said. If, like, as I start explaining how I interpreted your message, please stop me and correct me, because I really want to understand what you're saying. That's what you do to try to strengthen somebody's argument. And then when you do that and their argument is at its strongest point, then you could have a rebuttal or be like, look, when this happened, you might have interpreted this way. Here's what I meant. Or because sometimes people think that what you said, you meant it to be offensive. But how many times you think that you know exactly what somebody means when they're talking and you have no fucking idea what they're trying to communicate to you, or that they're, what I'm saying? You think that they're trying to undermine you. Yo, one time I was in a car with my mom, right? And she got so mad because, so she doesn't know how to navigate with the GPS on, right? Because she gets distracted easily. So she needs her eyes on the road. So I was holding it for her. So I'm like, all right, turn right. And then she was like, oh, don't worry about that. I know how to get there. I'm like, do you know how to get there to the point that I could turn the GPS off? She's like, no. I'm like, all right, so then you don't know how to get there. She got so mad. She thought that I said that to be a smartass, to try to make her feel like shit. There was another time, right? I'll tell you another story, right? Sometimes if people are full of shit, or if they're like, people don't like being called out on whatever it is. Well, and sometimes they think the reason that you're calling them out, they think that you get a high from doing that. And I'm not going to lie, there are people in the world that I don't know if they think their life mission is to wake up in the morning and correct other people, but you could tell when people get off on that. They just love trying to put you in their place. And it's because they're never in theirs, you know what I mean? And they think that that's like an anointing gift or something, like, you know what I mean? They're the correction squad. It's like, bruh, like, does this make you happy? I don't know. Some people just really like doing that. But the thing is, sometimes we get corrected by somebody and we think that they like doing that to us. They just like doing it. You know what I mean? And then we can't receive what's being said because how we interpret the place that we think they're coming from. And sometimes you have no idea where somebody's coming from. You think just because it rubs you wrong emotionally and you follow your emotions, you know what I mean? And there's a scripture in the Bible that says, there's a way that seems right to a man, but it leads to death. It always leads to death. I want to tell you a quick story. There was a guy, right, that I really respect more than anybody I've ever met in my life. He's almost the same age as me, maybe 2 years older. I remember one time there was a guy that asked him a question. He was like, yo, bro, I keep having a dream about scripture or about this, because like I have a friend that he fell in love with a married woman, right? And he couldn't wait for her to, because she kept telling him, oh, I'm going to get divorced. I'm going to get divorced. And he kept like trying to coerce her into like getting through with the divorce so he could have her to himself. You know what I mean? And he was excited that she was having a failing relationship because, oh, cool that he treats you like crap, or cool that, you know what I mean? Because then I could have you. I won't treat you like that, So this was a person that they always try to justify their shit. Like they always try to. Yeah, I remember one time I told this person, I had a conversation about him to somebody else, and I told him about that conversation, and I was like, bro, I know somebody who, I was talking to this one girl, and she told me it's just you being a religious man. It just strikes her as a very surprising thing that you would go after somebody's woman, like this person is still married, like regardless if their relationship is failing. Because here's where people justify, they'd be like, yo, that relationship was gonna die anyways. I mean, if you don't want your man doesn't want you, like, is it really a bad thing? Is it really, you know what I mean? And it's like, bro, if you're religious, then what does the Bible say about that? You know what I'm saying? Like, if you're a religious person, isn't your justification supposed to be scripture? You know what I mean? But here's the thing, like with Bibles and stuff, some people nitpick the shit that makes them, that like, I don't know. Like, there's another scripture in the Bible that says, "Be angry and do not sin." Sorry. And some people, they see that as a permission to be angry. You know what I mean? But I was watching a video yesterday, and he said, whenever you see a man for less than he was created for, that is sin. And he was like, in New Testament, the Bible considers hatred to be murder. Even though you could hate your own brother or you could hate your own relative or whatever. Even though you didn't technically murder them because they could go on to live a prosperous life, you cut them off. You cut off their potential as to where you're concerned, because you could only see them for what you're disgusted by. You can't see them for what they were created to be. You see them for what their mediocrity, and you think that that's who they are. And that's why for me it's become a good, healthy practice that even when I'm talking to the mediocre version of a person, I refuse to believe that they were created to be that weak and pathetic. You know what I'm saying? Like, I don't view them as that. I just view them as if they are already living up to their full potential, as if they're already there. Because when you see a man for what he could be, you inspire. You could promote him to what he should be if you see him for what he could be. But if you see him as how he is, you'll make him worse than how he is, because you'll hold him so accountable to what he should be doing, right? And so yeah, there's just so many stories I could go into telling you. Like, one of my favorite stories to tell you guys is how my friend, his mom was being mean to him for like 3 months. She kept cursing at him and yelling at him and, just being emotionally distraught, right? And making it her son's fault, as if he's the reason that she's that way, And for 3 months straight, all he did was say, Mom, like, thank you for driving me to work. Can't wait to see you when I get home. I love you. Nothing but kindness. He never once told her, your attitude bothers me. I hate the way you act. This disgusts me. Like, none of that. He never made her feel like he's alive for himself, and he's alive for her to jump through hoops in order for him to be okay. He never made himself an emotional vacuum cleaner towards her. Like, he never did none of that. He just simply said, I love you. That's it. He laid down his life for the sake of another, and greater love has no man than this, than he'd lay down his life for the sake of another. So laying down your life for the sake of another means, like, laying down your expectations. You know what I mean? Like, but the thing is, we don't want to do that, because we don't want to be a floor mat. We don't want to be a doormat. We don't want to enable people. I'm using air quotes right now. I know you can't see me, but enable people. You know what I mean? Like, you think that just because every time your friend needs money and they always come to you because they know you always have money, that every time you give them money, you're enabling them to continue on with that behavior. Don't you know, if they're always going to be a beggar, they're always going to be a beggar? Like, you can't enable somebody or disable. I mean, you could encourage. Like, you could encourage people, but you're not enabling them. Like, you're not in control of somebody's personality type. Certain people are always going to be beggars, whether they're begging you or they're begging somebody else. But the thing is, we don't believe that. We believe that we add on to them being a beggar by every time they need assistance financially, like giving them money. Oh, I don't want to enable you. I don't want to empower you to keep asking me for money or asking people. And it's like, bro, if they don't go to you, they'll go to somebody else. You know what I mean? Certain people are just, they're going to be how they've been. You know what I mean? Some people are going to change, because life is a numbers game, man. Even though I do believe in everybody's potential, I just know that at the end of the day, there's so many people that never get there. And it's not because they're incapable of getting there. It's just because they have a mindset that prohibits them from getting there. You know what I mean? Like, there's so many people that want to be rich and they want to get to the top shelf, like the top shelf, like, I mean, like fancy stuff, like houses, cars, Lamborghinis, mansions. But it's like, bro, there's certain shit, it's not available to you, like, because of where your mind is, because of the things that you refuse to learn, or the things that you probably know that you refuse to implement. You know what I mean? There's so many entrepreneurial things and things about sales that I've learned, but so what that I know the information? Unless I'm applying it, the shit that's on the top shelf is not available to me, And Jim Rohn said, if you want the stuff that's on the top shelf, then you have to stand on the books that you've read. because that's how you access the stuff that's not available to you. Like wealth is not available to everybody, to every personality type. Let me say it like that. It's available to everybody. Like I do believe a lot of people could make way more money than they do. But if they have a mindset that says, yeah, right, that'll never be me. Or if they have a mindset, yo, sometimes when I talk about finances to people, they'll be like, yo, someone has to be a bus driver. Someone has to be a janitor. Someone has to, you know what I mean, be a police officer, you know? And then I'm like, what do you think about these job positions? Like, do you think those are mediocre positions? They would be like, yeah, like, I'm not a fan of those type of jobs. I'm not a fan of being a janitor. I'm like, all right, well, yeah, someone has to be mediocre. Who says you have to be the janitor? Who said you had to be the bus driver? Who said you, like, if you consider that mediocre positions, you know, and that's just an opinion. Like, you know, some people get so mad. Oh, how dare you view that as this, you know, like people will like, there's some people that think being a Marine is a, like elite status. And then some people that think, man, that shit, why would you ever, like, that's stupid. You know, so it's just, it doesn't matter what you represent. Like, you know, well, it does matter. But what I'm saying is, no matter what side of the fence you're on, there's always going to be people on the other side of the fence. No matter what political view you have, there's always going to be people that oppose you. No matter what, you know what I'm saying, vantage point you have that makes sense to you. It makes sense to you because you're within your own head. Other people are not within your own head. But here's the thing that we do, right? If we're Christian, we meet atheist people and call them stupid for not believing in God. You know what I mean? And it's like, give me a second. What makes you think that calling an atheist person stupid and encourages them to want to believe in God? Instead, they're going to get offended and point at people like you as to you being the reason why. Man, I heard a story about this one guy. I don't know if this one Christian dude told him that he's going to go to hell when he dies if he doesn't change, but that seems to be a common theme. People telling other people where they're going when they die as if you're a god or like, I have no idea. Bro, I don't even know where I'm going when I would hope that I go to heaven, but you know what I'm saying? There's things that I don't do. You know what I'm saying? There's certain disciplines that I don't have yet, that if I died right now, I have no idea. So if I have no idea where the hell I'm going, like who the hell am I to tell you that you're going to hell when you know what I mean? And so I don't know, like, and we just don't know how we rub each other the wrong way, like when we say certain things, you know what I mean? Like, even though I do believe we should learn how to not be offended, it's not like I'm naive to the fact that people are still going to be offended. That even though there's things that people could be getting over, I'm not naive to the fact that some people will never learn how, because they refuse to, because they hold on to the rights that this world gave them. The right to be offended, the right to feel mad when someone doesn't respond to your text message within 10 minutes, the right to like hold somebody's calendar fucking schedule against them so badly to the point that you call somebody and you be like, yo, what's up with you, man? I know that every day you're home from 4 p.m. to 10 p.m. I know that you're in your house. I know that you read my text messages. I know that you're perfectly capable of responding to me, but yet you choose not to. Why? Like demanding an explanation as if the person you're arguing with was created to answer all your text messages in a promptly manner. Like, who the fuck are you? Like, you know what I mean? Like, yo, people are going to look at you like you're crazy. And then you, as being an emotional liability to them, you wonder why people cut you off, because so much hassle that you put on, so much weight that you put on their shoulders. You know what I mean? So one thing I believe for me, I'm not alive to put weight on your shoulders. I feel like I'm here to do what I can to try to eliminate as much weight from your shoulders as possible. Because you probably got enough weight on your shoulders as it is. You don't need me adding on to life being harder than it is. You know what I'm saying? Like, you don't need me texting you all the time like, yo, where are you? How come you're not responding to me? You know what I'm saying? Like, you know, so I don't know, man. I just, there's so many things that I understand now. If I send somebody a text message, right, and I know they received it and it's been 2 weeks, like let's say it's on Facebook and they left me on red. Yo, if it's been 2 weeks, here's why people are not replying to you, bro. They don't fucking feel like it. If it's been 2 weeks, come on, man. Like, you're just not on the things that they prioritize as being important. You're not on their top 10 list of priorities. And I'm sorry that you thought you was, or you thought that you had it in tight like that, or you thought it was deeper than what it was. You know what I'm saying? Like, sometimes it's not that deep. It's not as deep as you assume that it is. You know what I mean? So it's not, nobody is really that busy, to be honest. It's all about priorities. If it's been 2 weeks, somebody could get back to you if they felt like it, but they don't feel like it, you know? And you might be like, why? Well, why don't you feel like it? But you got to understand, when someone says, I don't want to because I don't want to, that is a reason. But sometimes we don't accept that as a reason, and we start demanding a deeper reason than that, like as if they owe you an explanation. So that's why me, with my relationships, I tell people, yo, If you don't feel like text, if it's been 2 years and you don't reply, when I see you in person, there's no static. Like there's no, man, there's so many insecure artists sending their music to people getting mad. Oh, you heard my song. How come you didn't tell me if you liked it or not? Yo, they don't know you, first of all. You know what I mean? Like, there's so many marketers trying to sell their whatever. You got to understand, and you know, with marketing, I know some of you listening to me live right now are marketers. Some people are always going to think the shit that you do is a pyramid scheme. That's their mentality, and it's never going to change. You know, some people are going to think that that's a pyramid scheme for like 15 years, and then on the 16th year come to the conclusion that, yo, maybe these fucking marketers know what they're talking about. Maybe making $5,000 per week from my smartphone is possible. You know what I mean? But the more that you try to argue with people and demand that they believe in what you believe in today, the more that they have resistance towards your message, because they think that you have an agenda. So many people are selfish and they have an agenda. You know what I mean? Like, the only reason you argue with people that don't return your text messages is because your life would be more convenient if they fucking replied to you quicker. You would be happier. So the only reason you're even having the conversation is for your sake. It's not for their sake. So your motivation is self-driven, and they see that. And when you're nothing but self-driven, then when you die, that's all you ever had was yourself. That's all you ever maintained was yourself. And you never even maintained you, because you was always at the mercy of other people doing you right, treating you well, and returning your fucking text messages when you think that they should be returning them. You know what I mean? Like, man, I remember one time I was at somebody's house and somebody's 10-year-old son was like, yo, he was like, I've heard the toilet, like, he's like, I don't know if he's got his ear to the door, but he hears the toilet flush and he's like, yo, now you have time to talk to me. I'm like, bro, you don't decide where my time goes. You know what I mean? Like, you're not about to decide that now is the time that I make for you. You know what I'm saying? Like, so what? You heard the toilet flush. It doesn't mean that I'm done with the bathroom. Like, after that, I had to shave. He's like, oh, well, you know, I heard the toilet flush, so I thought that was like, you know what I mean? And it's like, he doesn't realize that, you know what that would do? Like, if it was with somebody else, you know what that would do if there was a visitor? It would make people feel like, all right, for as long as this kid is in the house, I can't flush the toilet. Like, if I need to still use the bathroom, I need to prolong flushing the toilet, because he's going to listen to a toilet flush and think that that's an indication that I'm done with the bathroom. And now he could, like, talk to me. You know what I'm saying? Like, you know, so, and he doesn't realize that, yo, like, maybe sometimes a person doesn't want to be bothered, or a person doesn't want to, you know what I mean? People be like, oh, I saw this, you know, like, you see that someone left you on read, and you feel like since they read your message that you're entitled to a response. Bro, you're not fucking entitled. Like, you know, and having expectations is why we're always going to be disappointed. You know what I mean? I don't feel like any of you owe me a response. I don't care how many times you leave me on read, because I'm not alive for my text messages to be answered to. Like, my meaning in life, my purpose in life, it goes so much deeper than you treating me well, or you doing, it's outside of you. It's outside of, you know what I'm saying? Like, well, not completely outside of people, because, like, I do believe I was created in God's image to be loved. Like, some people think that God's image means 2 arms, 2 legs, a torso, and a head, and that's God's image. You know what I mean? And like, there's scripture in the Bible that says, be fruitful and multiply. And we think that means have sex, have a lot of sex, have a lot of kids. But you don't understand, if you're insecure as hell, then the image that you're reproducing into this world is more than just children, but insecurity through your children. If your marriage, if your relationships are broken as hell, there's so many kids that, you know, they're living, like, their parents are living vicariously through their kid, like, unconsciously, like they're not even conscious that this shit is happening. I have a niece and a nephew, and they both hate Donald Trump for no reason other than they hear their parents saying that. So whatever they hear their parents say, they become a product of what their parents are saying, and the kids don't know how to do nothing besides follow. You know what I'm saying? So they're gonna have to grow up and realize later on that hating another man is not worth their time, or does nothing for them. You know what I'm saying? Like, they don't know that now. So when it comes to the image being reproduced in this world, you know, like, God wants you to be loved. Like, yo, I think Adam, when he was created, you know, I'm gonna go off on a religious tangent for like 6 minutes, and then I'm gonna go back to, so anyways, I really believe Adam was perfect by himself. He wasn't a needs-driven person. I don't think he created Eve because Adam was lonely as hell, and he was a basket case, and he needed somebody there because he was going to fall apart unless he had a partner. Because if that's the case, then that's the same mindset that God created Adam from. And God's not a needs-driven person. You know what I'm saying? Like, you know, I think God has preferences. Like, he would prefer that people follow him, but I don't think he's in heaven falling apart because people are not, because he gave you free will. You know what I'm saying? Like, the option to follow God is there. The option to go the other way is also there. You know, if you read Genesis, notice how when, like, you know, like when Adam and Eve did the wrong thing, God wasn't even present in the garden. He wasn't peering through a window, opening up the shades to see, yo, what are my creations doing? They better be doing the right thing. None of that. Like, he gave them freedom, like for real, to either do the right thing or to do the wrong thing. Of course, he wanted them to do the right thing. You know what I mean? But how would you have free will if someone gives you free will and there's two doors you could potentially walk through and they're standing in the way of one of them? That means you don't have free will. You know what I'm saying? Like, he simply told them, yo, you eat from the tree of forbidden knowledge. On a day you eat of it, you'll surely die on that day. And they didn't fall over dead. But what happened was the image of God died. You know what I mean? Like Adam and Eve, they became a god unto themselves. They became selfish. They hid. They put fig leaves around their body. They had shame. There was no shame before that. They started having shame for their actions. They started hiding from God. They heard God coming and they hid. And they was like, oh, we were naked and I put fig leaves on. And God's like, simple question: who told you you were naked? Did you eat from the tree of forbidden knowledge? And couldn't even answer the question. Like, the first thing Adam says was, oh, if you didn't make the woman, like I wouldn't be deceived. Like, you should have never made the woman. Like, basically, you know, like, oh, it was the woman you gave me. It's her fault, you know? And then the woman's like, oh, it's the devil's fault. You know what I mean? So it's this whole blaming somebody else for why you're a mess. You know, it only enables you to continue being a mess. You know what I mean? Like, so yeah, anyways, I don't think Adam was a basket case. And I don't think he was like so needs driven that he needs a woman to be, he was complete. He was fulfilled. He was like God. He was love, you know? And, you know, so when he created Eve, he reached into the fullness of God in man and pulled out the woman, and she was complete, you know? Like, both of them were complete. So out of the fullness of God in each other, 1 + 1 equals a greater one, and they come together in union and communion, you know? Like, they wasn't like, I don't think Adam and Eve before the fall, they desperately needed the other person to do certain things in order for them to be okay. Like, you know, people be like, oh, God gives you emotions. Some of the emotions that you have came from hell, like straight up, like, you know, because the emotions that you have, it doesn't produce life in your relationships and your own, within the walls of your own mentality. Like, when you sleep at night with the mentality that you have, the mentality you have either produces life or it produces death. And there's a way that seems right to a man that always leads to death. You know what I mean? So, getting back to that story that I was trying to tell earlier that I forgot, you know, I didn't tell you in the middle of it. It got cut off. I went to another thing, but I remember it now anyways. There's a guy that I really respect his opinion because someone asked him for his opinion, their interpretation on a dream he was having. And he was like, yo, what do you think I should do? Like, you know, this woman is married, but her marriage is failing anyways. Like, is it bad that I want to be with this girl? Is it bad that, you know, I'm excited for her to get the divorce, or is it bad? You know what I'm saying? He was saying stuff like that. Give me a second. And he was like, bro, like, I can't give you advice, right? Give me a second. He was like, I can't give you advice because, and then he brought up scripture. He was like, there's a scripture in the Bible that says there's a way that seems right to a man that leads to death. And, you know, so he was like, if I give you advice based on what I would do if it were you, then my advice would lead to death, you know, and maybe not like literally dying, but what he's saying is leading to, you know what I'm saying? Like a principle that's not of God, a principle that's, you know, on the other side, you know, because the truth is, like, we're all going to reproduce something. Even if you don't have kids, you're going to reproduce something, and you're either going to reproduce like insecurity and easily being offended, and then you're going to justify being, you know what I'm saying? The way we talk to each other, we'd be like, oh, someone said that to you? Man, I'd be so offended. I would have punched them in their face. Like, man, how come you didn't sidekick them? You know, and you think just because you would have gave somebody a sidekick that fucking someone else should behave the same way that you should. Yo, so like I'm telling you, man, whether you have kids or not, you're going to reproduce something. And either what you're reproducing is love, you know what I mean? It's patience, it's diligence, is you know, not keeping account of a suffered wrong, not, you know what I'm saying? So I'll give you an example, right? When I was 14 years old, my stepdad was like, and actually, before I get into that, let me finish telling you this story. My bad. I be jumping all over the place. Yo, so like, he said, I can't give you advice because if I give you advice, the place I'm coming from, it might not lead to life. So he was like, before I give you advice, I have to pray on it. I have to really believe that God is telling me to say certain things to you. And I want those to be the only things that when I heard him say that, I respected his opinion so much, right? Because some people are so yo, be careful when people want to pour into you. There's something weird about that. There's something weird. Because, if someone desperately wants to be your mentor, the first question you should ask them is like, yo, how come you have so much free time to be my mentor? Like, how come you're not busy? How come you're not mentoring other people? Or how come, you know what I mean? Like, how come you're so desperate to be somebody's? It's always the people that are desperate to mentor somebody that they're probably not qualified to be your mentor. First of all, a lot of these people, the reason they want to be your mentor is because they have a sense of fulfillment and they feel like their life has meaning when they're pouring something into you. Even if what they're pouring into you is destructive emotions and it's going to enable you to be a mess if you fucking listen to them. Even if your life is going to be bad as a result of you listening to them, they feel internally good because they feel like now they have meaning because they could be a teacher and they have a student. You know what I mean? So you shouldn't want to mentor people because you're insecure as hell and you desperately need people to hear your message. You should want to mentor people because you really believe you have something to say. And if people listen to your message and apply what's being said, it would revolutionize their life and it will be better off, so much better off listening to your message than going against it. That should be the motivation behind mentorship. Not because I had one person, man, this dude was insecure as hell. Like, I would not, and he thought because he memorized scriptures that's impressive to me. You know what I'm saying? So if you're a Christian person, I need you to know that the people that don't believe, like, cause people like, they be like, oh, you believe in imaginary man floating in the sky, or some atheist people call him Sky Daddy. Don't get offended when people say stuff like that. That's just their interpretation of how ludicrous your belief system sounds. But just because they think your belief system is retarded as hell doesn't mean that you have to have an emotional outburst when they say things that, first of all, if you get mad, here's why. Because they said a list of things that you think they don't have the right to say. So because you don't think people have rights, you're frustrated because you feel like they went too far. They crossed the line. Like, your expectations was failed. All your fucking anger comes from expectation. If you drop your expectations, how it's impossible to even be mad unless you haven't failed expectation on how you think somebody should have did something, or they shouldn't have, something was inappropriate, or they shouldn't have said that, or they shouldn't have did this. You know what I mean? If someone believes your belief system is retarded, there's a good chance they're going to tell you that. And there's trolls in this world that they get off on trying to get a reaction out of you. There's so many people that if they get a reaction out of you, that's the highlight of their day. And you're giving them everything that they want when they see you mad because of them. Because that's how they feel fulfilled. That's how people do some weird shit to feel excited about life. Some people love getting a reaction out of you. And that used to be me, man. Like, I used to like doing that. Some people, if they're mentoring you, now they feel fulfilled because until you came around to be the student and for them to be the mentor towards you, they didn't have no sense of fulfillment. You know what I mean? So that's why I believe that Adam by himself was fulfilled. He was complete, and he wasn't an insecure, needs-driven, emotional wreck. You know what I mean? Like, before other people, he was complete by himself, just like God's complete by himself, because God could continue to be God even if, how many people are in this world? 7 point something billion people, right? If there were no people on earth, God could be God by himself, and he would not have an identity crisis like, man, how can I be God if I don't have people to govern over or people to rule over? Like, I can't be God without other people. Man, it'd be a scary place if God had insecurity, because that means every time you wake up in the morning, you would hear in your conscious mind, yo, why are you checking your Facebook feed, your Twitter feed? How come you didn't pray to me? Imagine God checking up on you like, yo, I know that you're home from 4 p.m. to 10 p.m. doing nothing. And you have the nerve to let 7 hours pass or however many hours, and you don't pray to me and you don't talk to me and you don't, yo, man, like, this world would be scary if God was insecure as hell like that. That's how I know, like, and he's not like that. I don't believe that he's like that. You know what I'm saying? Like, so that's how I know that people weren't created to be like that. So when I meet people that are like that, I don't believe that that's how they're supposed to be. So I don't acknowledge them as if that's who they, I mean, it's not like I'm naive to the fact that that's how they are right now, but that's how they are now. That's what they became. They are that way because they became that way, not because they were created that way. And because I view people like that, and I know that, you know what I'm saying, everybody has the same created value, and which is greatness. They're created to be loved, to be, to be patient. Love is patient. Love is first patient, then it's kind. If there's anybody in your life that you lack kindness towards, you feel like you keep verbally abusing somebody and you have no idea why, it's because you lack patience for the person. Because your kindness for people is going to flow out of your patience for people. And I think the Bible is written that way strategically, on purpose. Like the pillars of love in Corinthians, it says love is patient, then it's kind, and then it doesn't take an account of a suffered wrong. You know what I mean? Which means it doesn't have 25 journal entries as to how many times somebody wronged you, and you don't bring out that journal to remind people of how many times they violated you, and remind people of how you feel justified being an emotional wreck because they didn't do the things that you needed in order for you to be okay. How come you being okay is completely predicated on other people behaving a certain way? Don't you know that that means you're never going to be okay? Because, you know, because let's say that someone, let's say your wife or your husband, whatever, like your kids, always pushing your buttons, right? All right, let's say that they change. They start respecting your buttons and they stop pushing them. All it takes is for some random ass individual in the street who you don't even know to push the same button to you know, for you to have the same failed expectation, because anybody could push your buttons. Anybody, you know what I'm saying? Like, if the shit that your wife used to do that bothered you, she stops doing it. Okay, now your wife doesn't get on your nerves anymore. But I could come around and do the same shit that your wife used to do to you and get the same reaction out of you that she used to get at. Which means now you're at the you used to be at the mercy of your wife. Now you're at the mercy of me. And you better hope that I respect your buttons, because if I don't give a damn about your buttons, I'm pressing every one of them to get a reaction out of you because I have nothing better else to do with my day. Now, I'm not that type of person, but if I was, that'd be my mentality. Like, you know what I mean? Like, and people that don't have goals, dreams, aspirations, they have time to be trolls. They have time to get reactions out of you. They have time to like delight in evil and delight in mediocrity. You know what I'm saying? It says more about themselves than it does about you. You know what I'm saying? So anyways, so yeah, man, like I said, if your wife stops pressing your buttons, now I could press your buttons. Then what? Same reaction out of you. Or your kids could press the same button, or your employees, or it could be your boss. You know what I mean? So this is why I say, like, if you ever hated a person, right? Think about one person that you hate. Think about their personality traits. Now think about 500 people in one room who think exactly like that one person that you hated. Don't you think that you would hate all 500 of them too? Do you see how you hating an individual is not personal? It's not even an individual that you hate, because the individual has potential to be so much more than what they are. It's the mindset that has to die. You know what I mean? That's why Jesus said, if any man come after me, let him first deny himself. Why? Because it's the biggest problem that this world has is men living for themselves when they weren't created for themselves. They were created for God's image, to be love. You know what I mean? Like, you think that when people are starving in the street, man, I see it in Lower Manhattan all the time. Like, people starving in the street, begging for money, and nobody wants to give them anything, you know? Do you think if men wasn't living for themselves that we'd behave that way? If we was alive to try to do right by each other and try to the best of our ability, try to be there for each other? Man, we would not let homeless people, like, it would be no homeless people. It'd be no starving people. All these things we blame on God. But the thing is, he gave us free will, and some of us choose not to reproduce his image, which is love, his personality traits, his character, his mindset. And because we don't, like, you know, either you're gonna serve one thing or another. Either you're gonna be on one side of the fence or another. You know what I'm saying? Like, I saw this video. It was so crazy. This guy, he didn't believe in, I don't think he ever believed in God or any of that stuff. He was always on the middle. So on a dream, he was actually sitting on a fence. So God came for his people in his dream, took all his people. The devil came for his people and took all of those people, and he was left in a world by himself, sitting on a fence. And then he sees the devil coming back to him, and he was like, whoa, what are you doing? Like, I know I didn't choose God, but I damn sure didn't choose you either. Like, why are you walking in my direction? And the devil says, you see that fence that you're sitting on? That fence belongs to me. And the devil takes the fence with the man and drags him to hell, like the fence and the man that was sitting on it. You know what I mean? And that dream, after the guy had that dream, I think he converted to Christianity after that. But that shit is crazy. Can you imagine? Like, you know what I mean? So that's such an impactful, I don't really share that story too much. It's not even my story. It's just some video that I so happened to watch. It was some other guy's story. I thought it was pretty intriguing how the devil walks towards him and he's like, yo, that fence that you're sitting on, it belongs to me. And he drags the fence and the guy to hell, like both of them. You know what I mean? And it's just, the moral of the story is, there is no middle ground, you know what I mean? And there's a scripture in the Bible that says either you're for me or you're against me and stuff like that. But here's the thing about, like, you know, religious people, because I really want to apologize on behalf of all the Christians, whoever fucking got on your nerves and made you feel like you're obligated to follow God. You're definitely not. Or made you feel like, oh, you're going to hell, you ought to change. Because I know how people make you feel when they say those things. Like, I'll never forget that one story of a girl that had purple hair, and some guy in a church, when she walked into church, 10 minutes of her being there, the guy's like, yo, do you think God wants your hair color to be purple? Instead of being excited that you have a new church member, instead of like delighting in the fact that there's a new soul they could be rescued or whatever. You know what I'm saying? You want to trip over the fact that she has purple hair? Like, come on, bro. Like, so the fuck what? You know what I mean? And then we wonder why people don't want to come to our church. We wonder why people want nothing to do with us because we're too religious. You know what I mean? Like, I've only met, to be honest, I met a lot of people that identify Christian. But when it comes to Christians, for real, I've only met 5 of them, probably. Maybe 5. And the Christians that I've met are not religious people. And the religious people that I met are not Christian. And those two are not the same thing, even though they get placed in the same category. A religious person is always going to get on your nerves, right? Or they're always going to try to condemn you or make you feel less than just because you're not living up to a rule book, right? Because they view, you know what I'm saying, like the Bible as a rule book. Like, you have to stay in line, you have to follow the rules. Like, they're very legalistic about stuff. You know what I'm saying? Like, one of the few Christian people that I met, he never made me feel less than just because I wasn't living up to my creative potential. He never made me feel, you know what I'm saying? All he did was try his best to be the best version of himself. And that spoke to me more than his words ever could have spoke to me. There's so many insecure ass people that are Christian that are delivering a good message, but people look at your life and they're not impressed with the way you're living. And you wonder why no one wants to listen to you. It's because they hear the words that you say, but they're like, man, F the words that you say when your life doesn't line up. You know what I'm saying? If you turn up at the club Monday through Saturday and then you're holy on Sunday, you think people are not watching you, bro? You think people don't see that and be like, yup, that's why these people are full of shit. Yup, that's why I don't listen to these type of people, because they behave this way, like they're holy or above me. And then I see them at the club. They go to the same clubs I go to. They go to the same strip clubs I go to. And then they have the nerve to try to use Bible scripture against me and make me feel like I'm going to hell. And it's like, yo, what hell am I going to, bro? Like the same hell that you're going to for attending the same clubs that I go to, for going to the same parties that I go to, for watching the same porn that I go to, for being, do you know what I'm saying? Whatever it is, like, you know, like, so it's like people, the best way to minister to somebody, if you're a religious person or if you believe in God, is with your life, because people watch what you're doing more than they listen to what the hell you're saying. Because we could say anything. Words are not as relevant as you think that they are. I mean, they're powerful, they're impactful, but thank God that Jesus didn't come here preaching a sermon. He was the sermon. And that's why when he preached, it had a place to land in people's hearts, because they saw his lifestyle, the way he lived. Then they heard his words. You know what I mean? Like, sometimes when people don't listen to you, you know what I notice about people? They're a lot quicker to feel your tonality than they are to hear your message. That's why sometimes when you're speaking, you have to repeat yourself multiple different ways, because they feel your energy, and the energy that you radiate at, they just don't like the frequency that you're at. It rubs them wrong, right? So they feel that more than they hear you. And that's why they spend so much time feeling you that they can't hear you at all. You know what I mean? But when your message, your tonality, your life have come in alignment, and people, man, I'm telling you, man, you can have so much impact on people when you become the things, when you spend more time becoming the change that you want to see in this world, instead of complaining about the changes that other people refuse to make. Because there's nothing impressive about a complainer, because everybody complains. You know what I'm saying? If you go to church and you complain just as much as the man that doesn't, you know, if you get a bill that you can't afford to pay and you worry just as much as the man that doesn't even believe in God, what makes your message relevant? Why should that man go to church when you tell him that he should have faith in God, but yet a bill comes and you don't even have faith in God? The bill becomes Lord and Savior over, like, what becomes Lord and Savior over your life at that moment is whether or not you could get enough money to pay the bill, as if $500 is fucking bigger than God or something. Bruh, like, and yet you're telling people to have faith, but yet a $500 bill comes that you can't afford and you don't even know how to have faith. People, you don't think people are watching that, bro? You don't think people are, you know what I'm saying? So I don't know how I got off on all this stuff. I feel like it was necessary for me to say, but anyways, yeah, man, people are watching, you know what I'm saying? And when you become what you say people should be, and you live from that place, and you're not you make suggestions subliminally, like, you know, you don't verbalize everything. It's crazy. Like, there's so many things you could suggest to people just by living out your suggestion. When you live out your suggestion on what you think other people should do, that's powerful. It's more powerful than you giving a 2-hour seminar and not being what you tell others that they should be. You know what I'm saying? So anyways, so I'm getting off that topic now. I'm pretty much done with this topic. In closing, I went all over the place as I usually do on my podcast, but I try my best to, you know, give you guys things that I feel like might help, you know. I'm not a guru or anything, man. I don't feel like I'm better than anybody. I don't know if anybody gets that vibe, but definitely not, man. I'm going to the grave just like you're going to the grave. So Anyways, in closing, if you want to have conversations with people without being so offended by what they're saying, first of all, you have to try to speak to people and assume that they know. First of all, you have to fall in love with wisdom, right? Because every area in life where we suffer, we lack wisdom in that department. So if we struggle financially, guess what we lack? We lack financial wisdom. If you struggle relationship wise, you lack relational wisdom. You know what I'm saying? If you struggle like taking care of your body, then you struggle with health wisdom, or, you know, eating, like, you know, dietary wisdom. There's all types of wisdoms, you know what I mean? But wisdom is the pillar of bettering your life. And then from wisdom, developing the disciplines necessary to take the actionable steps towards whatever it is that you say that you want. You know what I'm saying? There's people that want 6-pack abs, but they don't want to do no damn sit-ups. There's people that want $1 million, but they don't want to bring $1 million of value to the marketplace. Because as soon as you bring $1 million of value to the marketplace, depending on how long it takes you to do that, you can be a millionaire. You know what I'm saying? Like, but here's the thing, because we're not asking, how can I serve 1 million people? Because that'll definitely bring you more than $1 million. That's for sure. We're asking, how can I get $1 million? What's in it for me? And when you get, man, I could go on for so long, but I don't have much time. When you create a company for yourself, right? Profits, wages, margins, and that's all you're thinking about. You're not thinking about the consumer, the customer, making sure that they're good. Yo, your company's gonna fall apart because you have a self-driven man. When you bring selfishness into anything, it destroys it. Whether that's businesses online, whether that's your relationships, whether that's, you know what I'm saying? It's just gonna destroy it, man. And that's why people who get offended by their text messages not being responded to, they get so offended because they're alive for themselves. You know what I'm saying? Like, they're alive for other people to meet their criteria. You know what I mean? So anyways, so yeah, man. But when you create a business because you feel like you have a valuable product, it's going to help a lot of people. It's, yo, you know, like, Bill Gates was rich because he provided his net worth. That's how much value he provided to the marketplace. You know what I mean? Steve Jobs, creator of the iPhone, he's rich because he provided that much value to the marketplace. He sold over 1 billion units of iPhones to people globally. You know what I'm saying? So of course, you sell that much merchandise, you're gonna be rich. You know what I'm saying? But you didn't sell people a bag of shit. You sold them a smartphone. People are crazy about their smartphones. They love smartphones. You know what I mean? And here's the thing: some of you perceive smartphones as valuable. Some of you don't. I get that we don't agree on the same things, but the marketplace speaks for itself, and the whole entire marketplace is 7.7 billion people as a whole. You know what I'm saying? Like, I say this all the time, I hate Minecraft, but Minecraft doesn't need me to like their video game because they already sold over 200 million units. They don't need me to like it. It wasn't created with me in mind. It was created with people that like that type of shit. That shit is not for me, but it's for somebody else. So the other 145 million people, the marketplace has spoken. You know what I'm saying? And Minecraft is the all-time greatest hits video game, regardless if I think that it's cheesy as hell or not, because I don't decide the value of that game. I only decide that the value of that video game for me. It has no value to me, but it doesn't mean that it doesn't have value to the 200 million other people that purchased it. You see what I mean? So once we realize stuff like that, we'll stop being insecure. Like, you'll stop getting into businesses and getting mad because your brother or your cousin is not joining your business, as if they're obligated to go into business with you just because they're fucking related to you. Just because someone's related to you doesn't mean they're gonna like your product. Yo, make a good product and then they'll buy it. You know what I'm saying? Like, people don't mind buying products from family members, but is it a good product? You know what I'm saying? Is the product worth their time? And if you get mad, it's because it's because you're selfish. Because the only reason you even pitch them your business opportunity is because you know that if they sign up, you get a commission and it benefits you. And the only person you're thinking about when you're giving your business presentation is yourself. And people see that from a million miles away, and you wonder why family's not joining you. You know what I'm saying? They say that the worst people to try to recruit is your family and friends. And maybe there's some truth to that. But the truth is, like, those are the first people that you try to convert, because those are the people that you know first. Because, you know, sometimes those are the last people that want anything to do with you. They're like, oh, what's this Ponzi scheme or pyramid scheme? But yo, when you start bringing value, because look, this is the last story I'm gonna tell. I had a friend that he makes $10,000 a month easily from his smartphone, from his laptop. His mom didn't believe in him. You know, instead of him getting mad, like, oh, why don't people believe in me? He became an example of what he believed was possible. Now that he makes $10,000 per month, guess who's asking for a sign up link? His website, who never asked for it before. His mom is like, yo, where do I sign up? His uncles, everybody who made fun of him in his family, he didn't take it personally, you know? You know what he took personally? Getting successful. And becoming massively successful is probably the best revenge. You know what I mean? Like, you know, you're so desperate for someone to believe in you, but yet you haven't given somebody something to believe in. I know a friend that wants to be a rapper, but he has no results. He has no, like, you know what I mean? Like, people, the life that you live, man, is so much more impactful than the words that you say. So if you're going to be an all-time rapper, drawer, painter, it's cool. Like, you know, it's cool to believe that. Good. Continue believing that. But people won't believe you until you start packing stadiums and shit like that. Then they're like, oh man, this motherfucker, like, he actually was capable of that. Wow, I didn't think it was going to happen. But now you believe it because you could see it. Most people can't believe anything unless they're able to see it. You know what I mean? So just know that, like, there's a difference between saying you're going to create a building and then standing in front of a building you created and saying, here's my creation. The second one is more impressive to people than the first one. You announcing that you're going to create a building, or you're going to create a skyscraper, or you're going to, whatever the fuck it is. And people, you know what's the first thing people say? Yeah, right. I'll believe it when I see it. You know what I mean? Which means until they see it, they don't believe it. You know what I mean? So, I saw this other video. Let's see if I could formulate this last thought. This guy was like, you know, blessed is the person that believes. And he was breaking that down. He was like, why is the person that believes without seeing more blessed than a person that has to see to believe, even though they end up being blessed in the end? And he was like, have you ever wondered that? He was like, it's because the person that believes without seeing, he doesn't have to deal with the hell and the torment of unbelief. You know what I mean? Like, you know, like if you think that you're going to manifest your dreams and you just believe that, if you believe it in all circumstances, let's say it takes you 10 years to manifest your dreams. You'll never have to. Unbelief is so it's going to torment you. Every night you're going to question. You're going to have doubt. You're going to wonder, is it possible? You're going to wonder, you know. So you're going to be more blessed than a person that has to see it to believe it, because for 10 years they had anxiety about their dream. Let's say you manifest your dreams in 10 years. Another person manifests it in the same amount of time. You're more blessed than they did because they had 10 years of anxiety battling with unbelief, and you didn't have that. Because even when circumstance tried to dictate your emotions, even though life tried to tell you what you should believe, even though so many things happened and you ran out of money, or people owed you money, or people backstabbed you, you never lost sight of what you thought was possible for yourself. So for 10 years, they were an anxiety-driven person and you weren't. And I think that's why blessed is the person that, you know, believes without having to see. He just believes, you know, because his that belief system carries him through. Faith is a mindset, you know what I mean? So anyways, I said a lot. So yeah, man, I hope I said something edifying, you know, worth your time listening to. And yeah, man, I'll see you on the next one. Take care.